challenging times. Following their presentations, they'll be happy to take your questions, which you can submit by typing them into the chat section at the bottom of your screen. You can submit those questions at any time during the presentations. Our total program time is 60 minutes, and we have a lot to cover. So to begin, I'd like to ask Father Bogdan to please lead us in prayer.
В ім'я Отця і Сина і Святого Духа. Амінь. В ім'я Отця і Сина і Святого Духа. Амінь. В ім'я Отця і Сина і Святого Духа. Амінь. Христос воскрес із мертвих, смертю смерть подолав і тим, що в гробах життя дарував. Христос воскрес із мертвих, смертю смерть подолав і тим, що в гробах життя дарував. Христос воскрес із мертвих, смертю смерть подолав і тим, що в гробах життя дарував. В ім'я Отця і Сина і Святого Духа. Амінь. Welcome. It is a great pleasure to see you today. Right from Lvov. I miss for you. Welcome.
Дякую дуже, Отче Богдане. And now, Taras Shmahala and Alex Kuzma will give us a brief overview of UCEF's financial projections.
Thanks, Anne, and Christos Voskres. And thank you to all of you who have taken the time to join the call today. We're going to hear from you, UCU leadership in just a minute, but before we do that, I'd just like to provide you with a brief update on how the Ukrainian Catholic Education Foundation is doing during the pandemic. As you know, UCEF's job is to be the fundraising arm of UCU in the United States. And like every fundraising organization, the current situation has presented us with some unique challenges and frankly, some unique opportunities as well. First, we have to begin by acknowledging that many of our donors are facing real challenges right now. Some of them are economic and some of them are health related. It's a stressful time for all of us, but for those in our community who are more at risk and need to remain isolated, it's especially difficult. And we know that many are struggling, and we can't lose sight of that. It's also a more competitive environment for charitable donations. I think I've received a solicitation recently from every charity I've ever given to, and I suspect that many of you feel the same way. There are a lot of good causes out there, and we need to be sensitive to that as well. The good news is that our donor base is, in a word, spectacular. Our donors are committed, they're passionate about UCU, and they're amazingly generous. In fact, to date, we're actually ahead of our revenue projections. Now, of course, a lot can change, and a lot depends on how quickly the economy rebounds. But for now, and with your help, we're cautiously optimistic that we'll meet our budget for the year. So we're continuing to move forward with our strategy. We've just launched the Joseph Slipay Legacy Society to acknowledge those who have remembered Ukrainian Catholic University in their wills or insurance policies. We're moving toward a more digital environment as well. I think this call is perfect testament of that. Given that our traditional banquet events may not be possible or even advisable, we'll be doing more virtual events like this. And it's make these calls more frequent. Thank you again for your support of UCU, and please don't hesitate to contact me with any thoughts or suggestions you have for the foundation. With that, let me turn it over to Alex Kuzma for a few words.
Christos Voskres. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I want to thank all of you for taking part in this conference call. We have many dear friends from the Northeast to Florida to the Midwest to the West Coast, and I think your participation says a lot about your commitment to UCU, your care about this institution, and now more than ever, we are deeply grateful for your support. As Taras said, the coronavirus pandemic has had a severe impact on many families, and we know that at least some of our supporters will not be able to contribute as generously as they have in previous years. But all the more reason that we're so grateful for the tremendous support we have received from so many of you, including a very large influx of donations that came in this morning, including a gift that for $250,000 from somebody who's on this call, but we won't name any names so as not to embarrass them. But we have received tremendous support, and from many of you, especially over the last 3 months. So you've all helped us to weather this storm with gifts that came in earlier in the year and also gifts that came in larger amounts. And for this, we're truly humbled and we're deeply appreciative. I think you'll be impressed to hear from Ljubko Tarnowski and Sophia and others as to how quickly and resiliently UCU has been able to adapt to the new conditions in the university and the need for distance learning, and also how they've adapted to the challenges that we're facing as far as budgetary constraints. And it's important for you to know that UCU is not just relying on support from our North American donors. They've gone out of their way. I have to give a big shout out to Natalia and Olya and their team at the UCU Development Office that have gone out and secured some really significant gifts from Ukrainian business leaders and ordinary citizens. I think it's important for us to know that UCU, in addition to its fantastic academic achievements, has also fostered a kind of culture of philanthropy in Ukraine that is really quite remarkable. Still, there's no way to get around it. We will continue to need some very strong financial support from our US donors this year to sustain UCU on its trajectory of growth and excellence. And so I want to give a special shout out today. Many of you are not aware of this because we haven't really advertised this very much, but I wanted to give a shout out to our Chicago and Lviv team led by Nelson Bosakoma, Ljubko, Natalia, and others that helped us secure a $500,000 grant from the U.S. Agency for International Development for the construction of our Collegium 2, the second residential college. So rest assured, we will do everything that we can to match your generosity and to leverage your major gifts with other gifts from non-Ukrainian sources. So realizing that many of you or some of you may not be able to support us financially this year or not at the same level, we hope that you will continue to support us in other ways, especially as advocates for UCU among your friends and colleagues. Use this time of quarantine to spread the good news about what's happening at UCU, and we hope you'll introduce us to new donors, not just among Ukrainian Americans, but among Roman Catholics and really any people of goodwill that care about Ukraine and that understand its critical role in advancing democracy and Christian values and human rights in Europe and throughout the world. So thank you so much for being on the call, and we'll carry on. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Taras and Alex, for that very fine introduction. And next we'll hear from Sofia Opatska, who will share with us an operational update on how UCU has adapted to education in the virtual world.
Thank you, Anne, for introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us. I would like to ask Roman to share the presentation, if possible, and I think this is very, very nice that we are on this call together, because right now it's so important to feel some support and to feel this human connection which all of us have. So thank you once again. What I will be presenting, it's just me and Ljubko presenting today, but indeed this is work of a really big team here in Lviv, of the whole university. And I would like really to acknowledge, first of all, our faculty who moved very quickly to online learning, and to all administration, and also, of course, to students who were able to do it and are still doing that. So if we can go to the next slide, I would like to share with you a couple of things today. How we transitioned to online learning, what are the key issues or challenges which we have, and we would be grateful for any advices. How we are managing crisis, because we know that this is not only coronavirus crisis, we know that this is economic crisis, we know also that this is in some sense some ethical crisis as well. And I will conclude with some principles how we decided to move on and how we are making future decisions. Next slide, please. So Everything started in Ukraine in March, in the middle of March, but I think we as university, we were following news and we were following very attentively what's going on in other parts of the world, probably due to the fact that we are part of more of global community. It made us psychologically well prepared already. And something which became a huge surprise to many Ukrainian companies, businesses, other universities, I think in some way we were already prepared. So we actually 2 weeks before we moved into quarantine, we were already thinking and training our faculty how they can do it quickly. And indeed, we were able to move all the classes. Actually, in 2 days, we were able to move them online. The goal was that we need to have minimal viable product, what is called now in the startup world, that you have a product and you improve it every single day, and you improve experience of your customers, of your clients, of your students in some way. So it was a challenge, but I think in a couple of weeks, everybody got used and realized how everything is working and that not everyone is perfect. And everyone, faculty and students, they were very tolerant towards each other. In 3 weeks after we moved to online, we made a survey among students. And on 4th week, we made a survey among faculty. And what we saw from this survey is that first, that special attention need our graduates of this year, because in some sense, you know, they're the most mature, but they are graduating. And, you know, probably in first 2 weeks, we were thinking much more about freshman students and sophomore students, but then we realized that graduate students need special attention of us. Also, if we go to the next slide, you can see that every fourth student indicated that he or she needs some spiritual or psychological support. And this is big, I would say, that you know, it's a lot. And our pastoral, spiritual pastoral department started to have some, to provide some support over the phone. And our faculty of health sciences, they started a program of psychology. They started to provide some psychological counseling. I know that tutors, program managers, deans, they're spending a lot of time communicating, because lack of communication, this was one of the things which was indicated that everyone was needing. Another thing is that we realized that there is a number of courses which we cannot run, which we cannot do in such environment. And such courses are, they take around 10% of all academic disciplines. And the most difficult situation is again at the Faculty of Health Science, because, for example, our first group of physiotherapy and occupational therapy, they were supposed to have some practice in the end of their studies, and they had to stop it because all hospitals are closed. Also psychology students, so we had to postpone it. And what we said to our students who really need to have such practical training, we said that you will finish this year online. We had to make decision about completing the year online, but next year you can come back for this practical experience with the next group. So for us, it's very important that we provide an opportunity, what is the best in the program, that our graduates are having that. And practical experience is very important. It's actually probably one of the pillars of this faculty. And we said that you can come back, and this is our obligation towards you. Roman, if you can go to the next slide, I would appreciate. So some issues which we are having at the moment. So I think we made the transition pretty well, but we are approaching couple of next steps of the challenges. Well, first of all, summer programs. We have a number, we always had a huge number of summer programs at UCU. And our language summer programs, they are moving online. And of course, students are not very happy with that, but we don't have much choice. Also, our Ukrainian language school, which was quite a big program for international students, it also had to move online. And there was a question in chat asking about this. I think they are doing quite well work. They started like a week ago, and they have quite a lot of people who participate in the program, but still a big component of our life, communication and community. This is what we are lacking very much, and our students are talking about that a lot. Then also about summer, how we can use it in the best way, because we have a number of programs, for example, executive MBA, some executive education programs, which are not taking place at the moment. So students, those programs, they are for people who are working, and many of them have big troubles in their businesses, in their organizations, and they are saying that actually that for them physical presence at the studies was very important part. So we had to stop them, to postpone them, and now we are thinking how we can use summer to provide all obligations which we already have towards those students. Then there are a lot of articles, and all of us are very actively looking for news and reading the articles how universities will come out of this quarantine in various countries. And there are different signals. For example, some universities, they are talking very cautiously about returning to campus. For example, Notre Dame, they said that they will be returning to the campus, but with some restrictions. Some other universities are saying that we are not coming back to campus. Probably this is also dependent on in which location they are. Our colleagues from European Federation for Catholic Universities, they are saying that they are preparing for 70-30 proportion, where whole next year will be 70% online and 30% in the best situation will be offline. And this is very important issue for us, because again, we have radically to improve the students' online experience. I heard the new terminology that what is really right now happening, that this is emergency learning, emergency education situation programs for students, but this is not real online learning. So again, we need to make, during summer, we need to make huge investment of our time and also of our finance to prepare the fall semester, that best students who come to our university, that they really have interest to come and they also have ability to study here. Another thing is that different from United States, we still don't know who will apply to UCU, because this process takes place in Ukraine usually in July. This year it will be even in August, if everything is going steadily as it is going. And for us, it's very important to communicate as much as possible with those who are interested in UCU or those who are considering applying to UCU. It's very important for us at this moment to be useful for them and to support them in that process. And the last thing I would like to mention, I mentioned it already a little bit, but how can campus life in this whole situation can look like? Can we provide testing on campus? Because this is very important part of how to return, what the protocols should be. We already prepared the protocol for employees, how they can come back to work, but we are still working on the protocols for residents, for studying, and it will have huge impact on how we will live for the next year. Next slide, Roman. So the solutions which I already have mentioned is that we would like to use summer as much as possible to prepare for the fall, regardless of the study process format, and we need to invest quite a lot into online format of education so that it is really of high value. On the next slide, I would like to show you another thing is it's the crisis, how we worked on crisis management. I think, again, because we follow international news and because we follow what global issues, I think as a team, as management team, we were very quick on realizing that crisis is probably for the long period of time, and we need to plan scenarios as fast as possible. So we had one team which consisted mostly from top management, and we looked into our finance till end of this academic year. And then another team which to which we invited mostly heads of the departments or heads of programs, managers of the programs. We said, you don't know our financial situation, you can imagine it. But if you look much more into ideas, what would you take, what ideas would you take you think are important for us in this whole situation? So we generated very big number of those ideas. The group developed 3 scenarios. For example, that we finish the quarantine till September, but maybe we get on campus not on time. Another one is that quarantine can be till January 1st of next year. And another one that the whole next year will be more or less in similar format as we have right now. And if we go to the next slide, we will see that many of those suggestions, they are independent of the scenarios, and we can use them in any case. They have value and reason for being implemented. Some of the ideas, they can be adjusted. We asked the whole university, all faculties and department to select the most important of those ideas, and the criteria is that they have to be high value, low cost ideas. And most of them, they address not only learning process, but also our operational efficiency, also work of administrative departments. So I would say also our interaction, which means that we had very quick crisis overview at the university, and we are thinking how we can improve, because improvements are very important for us. Roman, do I have another slide? Yes, I have one more slide. No, the previous one. That's the last one. So the principles and conclusions, 4 principles which we would like to take with us into future, near future, and further future. We would like to combine our best experience from pre-crisis, pre-coronavirus experience, combine it with the best what we are living through right now, and have those two to build on those two, I would say. The second one is care and safety. So for us, it's very important that students, faculty, staff are safe on campus as much as it is possible. And sometimes maybe we are more cautious with our decisions. If you look actually outside in Lviv, I would say that in many senses, life is almost back to normal. We are not, because we have responsibility not only for ourselves, but we have responsibility for a big number of people. Speed is very important for us, because right now, if you're fast, if you're smart, if you experiment a lot, you can get a lot of ideas which would normally not be generated or implemented. And blended learning is high priority for next year. So this is very short. I would be glad to answer any questions which you have. And I probably, do I pass to Lubomir, or and do you want to do it?
Well, what we'll do, and thank you, Sophia, for that excellent overview. What we'd like to do is move on to Ljubko, and then as I mentioned, you can submit questions through the chat function, and we'll do the question and answer session after the presentation. So thank you very much. Now, Ljubko Tarnowski will give us a financial report.
Thank you, Anne. Christos Voskres. Hello, everyone. So I'd like to present you with the coronavirus impact on UCU's finances, its response to this impact, and with the current state of UCU's finances. And then I will provide you with some bird's eye view over university's economic and financial situation. So first of all, as we all see and know that the pandemic causes an economic and financial crisis in the world, and including Ukraine. And it also touches UCU. So what we see already that some parents of our students will have less money to pay for tuition next year. There is a risk that some donors' given potential might decrease. Also, we already see that the priorities of some donors already are shifting to fight the pandemic, and it will be happening further. The US stock market is now approximately below 15% from its peak in February 2020, and it influences some of UCU's investments. It is not clear, as Sophia said, what will be the rules for students living on the campus, and we don't know whether they will want to live on the campus. And people will also be traveling less often. We will have fewer visitors on the campus and in our guest rooms too. Also, what impacted the budget, that at the beginning of the academic year, the Ukrainian national currency appreciated by about 15%, from 28 hryvnia per dollar to 24, which also decreased the revenue in Ukrainian hryvnia terms. Roman, could you please go to the next slide? So right now, at this point, for this budget, what's going on? So we are living with the academic year's budget. So for the present academic year, which ends in July, this year, basically, we will not have the offline summer schools as it was planned originally. Some of them will be held online. For example, the Ukrainian summer school is happening online already. They've started some sessions. Students left the residential college in March, our collegium, and they are not paying for room and board. From the same time, as soon as the quarantine started in Ukraine, there are no visitors in our guest rooms, so no revenue from that revenue source. We also see that fundraising revenues might decrease, and some fundraising events will not happen offline. And for example, one of the events, the Paralas, which you can see behind me, the ad for that, will be held online on Sunday this week. And also, many of the short-term programs were canceled, especially the executive education courses, because they require face-to-face interaction. As a result of this impact, so the projected revenues for this academic year's budget fell by 14%, or about $800,000. So what we did in response to this, so first of all, UCU a little bit condensed, so to say, and we started by cutting some costs, in particular salaries, and salaries for faculty were not touched. So the salaries of faculty and some key support departments, they were kept at the pre-crisis levels, but the salaries for management and non-academic staff or administrative staff, they were decreased. Then some non-salaries also were cut, and this was natural because most of the activities is done online, and so people don't travel, we don't have conferences and other events, so we can save on that. And we were able to secure some bigger grants that were not actually planned, including some grants from European donors for several €100,000. So as a result, we managed to recover from this fall in revenues by about $500,000. So still for this year, we have to find additional 300,000 to cover the present year's deficit. Next slide, please. Speaking about the next academic year that will start in August this year, there is at this point just very little information. So we are looking at different possible scenarios of activities. As Sophia said, more online classes. We are developing some rules for classwork, for staying in office. So we will see how it will happen. But we also anticipate that there will be more budget cuts. And as we can see in other universities in the US and other countries, it could be about 20%, could be less, could be more, we'll see. As the biggest risks for the next year, we see that there could be smaller distributions from endowment because the markets fell down, that we might have no or smaller revenue generating services on the campus. Depending on the parents' ability to pay, we'll see whether we will have enough income from students, and also the risk is that there will be less income from fundraising. So we are currently in the budgeting process. We'll have our budget approved in June, and we'll be providing some updates accordingly. And the next slide, Roman, please. Yeah, so now I just wanted to give you some very basic financial information about UCU. So the annual operating budget, which doesn't include capital projects or institutes that are self-sustainable, is about $5.2 million. So essentially, UCU is still financially, in terms of money, is a small university, and every $1,000, every $100, it matters here. We have about 1,900 students. 200 students are the students of the business school, and faculty and staff, it's about 580 full-time equivalent staff members. Our cost per student is about $3,300, which is also comparatively small if we compare to other countries. And you can see the list on the screens, like it's about 30K in the US and in Europe, like Germany, 17,000, Poland, 9,000. And this is the data for 2015. So 5 years ago, basically as of 5 years ago for these other countries. And also just wanted to give you an outlook about the structure of income of the operating budget. And as you can see, so the non-fundraising revenues, which come from tuition, sales and services and endowment, they total about 44%, and 56% were coming from fundraising last year. This situation, this year, the situation might be a bit different because these revenue generating services, they are not active for the last few months, but already last year we had a pretty good position in terms of being sustainable. Also, just wanted to mention here that we have some building projects. As you remember, we built this campus, now we're building the collegium, and also the costs of construction are pretty good compared to other countries, $1,000 or $1,100 per square meter, or 10 square feet, which is substantially less as compared to other countries in Europe and in North America. So thank you so much. I will be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Ljubka. I see that questions are coming in, and it certainly is extremely helpful to have that financial information. I should note that we are making a recording of this session available to everyone. So you will have the slides, you will have the statistics that you can refer to as you figure out what you might be able to do in the way of supporting UCU. And now we're delighted to have with us a student at UCU, Nadia Shurko, who, as I mentioned, is studying ethics, politics, and economics. And she will say a few words about what it's like right now to be at UCU. So Nadia, please, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hope so. Right, so Nadia, I'm a second-year student of political science. And first, what I wanted to say is that I'm really glad that studying process at UCU takes place now, because talking to my friends from another universities, I hear that there are many cases when the studying process stopped, and I'm very thankful that we students have the possibility to get new knowledge now and to develop ourselves even online. So I'm very grateful because I am also a student who have got a scholarship. So I want to express a sincere gratitude to all benefactors who support students in such time or in other times, because it really matters for us. And even now I started to appreciate my scholarship much more, because there would be no possibility to or less possibility to earn.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. That's it's great to hear from you, and good luck with your studies. And we certainly
Organized
wish
pretty
you
well. We have almost, sorry? All right. Yeah, we have almost all the classes and subjects on schedule. Even if some subject or some teacher is not able to provide us with online class, they send us. Yeah, I have some maybe bad connection. I see the messages in the chat. Sorry for that, but I'll just go on. Yeah, so we get some assignments or tasks with deadlines, and we do them. It is a little bit more complicated to stay all the time online with your computer without possibility to read a real paper book, but I understand, and my classmates, we understand that it's our challenge to manage studying process in such way, and it's the smallest thing we could do is just to study well. So once more, really huge thank you for your support, and I and all the students really appreciate it. It's very important for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. It's great to hear from you. Good luck. Stay strong.
Thank you.
Okay, well, moving right along, we would like to invite Bishop Boris to please lead us into the Q&A with some thoughts on how we can best support UCU in the face of all these challenges. Bishop Boris, please.
Thank you, Ann. Christ is yours and everybody. It's really great to see you. I'm thrilled. I've really been quarantining. I was not in any movement, no cars for 2 months until yesterday. And I'm a little, I've got some cabin fever. I want to express
my solidarity with all of you who have been enduring this time, and especially my sympathy to people who have lost members of their family, whether it's through coronavirus or not, but it's been difficult to say goodbye at this time. And it's been a great time for me in many ways, besides the sadness and the confinement. I've lost 14 pounds. I've started an exercise regime. I've started to read a little bit. I haven't started writing a book, which I want to do, but I've finished commitments from the past. And I've been reevaluating aspects of my life as I'm about to turn 60. So I hope that this can be a great time for all of us. And I encourage you really to use this unique opportunity. It's a strange time, but it's a unique opportunity. And what I'm seeing in today's presentation, but also in my close contact with UCU over the last 2 months, and even before that, during the 15 days I was at UCU at the end of February and beginning of March, immediately before the quarantine, is that this team is better than ever. It's really quite incredible. Whenever I got down in these 2 months, I would just plug into something going on at UCU. Whether it's the programs for the students of the collegium, the dormitory, the sisters and Father Yudi have been doing great programs for the students that are outside of the collegium. Whether it's the teaching that Sophia presented to us, or whether it's the strategic and financial planning that Lubomir presented to us. We have a fantastic team headed by Father Bohdan Prach. It's outstanding. And Father Bohdan has been pushing everybody to really be creative, to consider this time as a chance for UCU to make a big step forward. People are in good shape and they're leading well. Father Bohdan and the leadership team, the first decision they made was to cut their own salary by 30%. I find that very inspiring. But they kept the salary for the faculty. And they're all working more than before the quarantine. And you know what? They're making the students work a little bit more, which is good for young people. A few points that I'd like to leave you with. This is a time for all of us, for the university, for us in our personal lives, and for us as a community of supporters and donors to make a step forward. One specific thing I want to ask all of us is in the next week or two to find one more donor for UCU. Find one specific donor, or encourage somebody that is a background donor to step forward. This is the time to make a serious step forward for this university. You saw the statistics. There's no better deal anywhere. The ratio of cost per student between the US and UCU is 9-to-1. You're getting 9 for the same dollar at UCU. Now is the time to continue the building at UCU. It's $1,000 to $1,100 per square meter. That won't be the square meter. That won't be the case. That's $100 per square foot. This is not a time to slow down at the university, because this team is ready to go. The students are together. Nobody is dispersed. There's a trimming down. It's not an easy thing to say, but this is a time when some people who are not with the system can be more easily released, and UCU is moving in this direction. There are no sacred cows. All questions are being asked. This news needs to get out, because I don't know of anybody in Ukraine, the government, business, the church, the NGO sector, that is so responsive to this crisis as this UKU community. And what I hope is that you can become an example for the global world. I'm speaking now to the UKU faculty and rector representatives. Father Prach is encouraging everybody to think big. And this is a time, just as soon as you get your crisis plan together, for you to speak more broadly to the broader global community. The United States is in a big, big mess. I'm after 10 months, I was month after month, I was thinking maybe I'm gonna, wake up and it's gonna be different. Well, every week I wake up to something like the hip hopper 6ix9ine. I don't know if you Americans here know who the hip hopper 6ix9ine is. This guy is attracting 200 million views on the most vulgar video that he released getting out of prison just 2 weeks ago. This is what kind of consumption there is. I don't need to speak about the political rhetoric. I don't need to speak about the issues connected with the US response to this coronavirus. This country has the largest number of cases. It has the largest number of deaths. It's the richest country. It has the best healthcare system in the world. The European Union is cracking up. Other global leaders are failing. Now, UKU will not take over the world in the next year or two. But this organization that is on the move, these young people that are making great sacrifices and are smiling and singing through this crisis, really need to be supported, encouraged, and pushed a little bit, because we need their leadership. I'm inspired. I thank all of you from coast to coast that are here. Many of you I haven't seen in a while, and it's good to see your faces. And I want to just encourage the UKU team. Thank you. I'm profoundly grateful for your witness.
Thank you so much, Bishop Boris. As always, you inspire us and you give us hope. And we are so, so grateful for your leadership. We have, I see, about maybe 10 minutes now for questions. I see a number have come through on the chat, and some, in fact, have been answered in the presentations. There were questions about the summer programs and details on the summer programs, and Taras Dobko has immediately responded and given information on that. So if you go to your chat session, you will actually see that. There were a couple, though, that came in that I think would be of interest to the group. Let me see, where was the one? Yeah, I mean, people are very concerned about the longer term impact for sure, and Sophia outlined some of the studies, some of the models that are being used for that. One specific question was, does UKU have access to simulation learning experiences, SLEs, for its physiotherapy program? Do any of you have the response, Sophia, or?
I don't think we have such an access. Actually, I would really appreciate any more information on that. I know that what our program faculty is using right now, they use a lot of case studies, but I never heard from them that they have this experience. I know also that they have been quite a lot in touch with some of our donors from Canada, but and they have been doing some consulting with them, how Canadian programs are right now functioning. But we would appreciate any help, any ideas, and any guidance in this area, because this is new program indeed. We will have first graduates this year. And this is such a pity that first graduation, this is how the program has to end. But but this is weird life right now, so we have to adapt to that.
Okay, then there was a question as to whether the students have sufficient broadband to do their studies, thinking of Nadia, and just asking whether that is a larger issue for the students.
Well, it happens. Taras, I think I answered that. I don't know, maybe Nadia can answer that, but some students have challenges with internet, or for example, maybe less with the internet, but a bit more with the what computers they have, what phones they have, because sometimes the devices are not profound enough to keep all the programs and to run all the programs. Some students who are in villages, but overall in Ukraine, internet is quite good. And as I mentioned, we try to develop empathy to each other when something doesn't work.
Right.
If I may add just one sentence. So some universities I have heard, not in Ukraine, but in the West, they have a service like borrowing or lending computers to students who need them. But unfortunately, this was not possible to do at UCU.
Okay. Then there's a question about how is the group of residents with physical and mental disabilities that were living with the students, how are they doing now? Anyone, either Sophia or
maybe I can respond, because I'm going to be meeting with them in the next days, and I was in contact with them before. They are in the house. They are a little bit lonely. The Collegium is it's a big building. It was always full of life. It was always surrounded by life, and now the campus is quiet. But the sisters are there, and the tutors with their families, the mentors are still in the house, and there's quite a bit of activity. There's prayer in the chapel almost every evening. There's prayer in the church that is next door. So it's a quiet time. People are healthy, have been healthy, thank God. But I think things are quite stable.
That's great. That's great to hear. Okay, and Taras Dubko has indicated that everyone who asks a question, if we don't get to your question, you will get a response offline. So let's keep the conversation going. And I also wanted to mention that this Sunday, the 24th of May, all of you are cordially invited to join UCU's virtual Perilas, which was mentioned. It's a celebration. It's a lot of fun. It will start at 7 p.m. Lviv time. So if you're on the West Coast, it's going to be more like an early morning, gathering. But you can register on the UCEF website. You do need to purchase a ticket, but all the information is there on the UCEF website, and you're all very, very cordially invited to attend and have fun with the people really around the world, because it's all totally virtual. And also, as I mentioned, there is a recording of this session, and we'll try to get that out tomorrow and send you a link. And there was an earlier question as to whether we might do more of these, and we would be delighted to do more of these, and certainly welcome your feedback. Please do stay in touch. What Bishop Boris referred to is, I hear a lot about impact investing, as I'm sure you do, and I can't think of a better impact on investing than UCU. As was outlined, you really do get a big bang for the buck, and they do desperately need it, and they are truly building the next generation of leaders for Ukraine and the world in a strong Christian tradition. So thank you again, all of you, for your participation and your support, and stay safe, stay healthy, and till the next time, do pobacenia. Thank you.
You know what, can we, before we go, can we ask Vladiko to close with a prayer?
Absolutely.
Lord, we thank you for life. We thank you for all the people that we've lost. We ask you to cure the sick. We ask you to give strength to our medical staff, all the first responders. We ask you to also help us use well this time to hear your voice. We know that you're speaking to the world. Help us wake up. Help us be responsible for each other. Help us have faith and treat this time as a new beginning. You have risen. You have given us new life. May the protection of the Mother of God be over all of us. May the saints accompany us, and may the blessings of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit descend upon you, all your family members, all the people we pray for, all our donors, faculty,